Welcome to Building Toronto's Skyline, a podcast exploring the current state of Toronto's condominium industry from a unique construction perspective through engaging and entertaining podcast interviews with the many stakeholders in the industry. This podcast is brought to you by Fusion Corp, a construction management company. Here's the founder and CEO of Fusion Corp Developments, Inc., and author of Building Toronto's Skyline and Battle of the Skyscrapers, the host of this podcast, Nick Ainis.
Hey, what a great intro again, Mike. Amazing.
You know what's amazing? The fact that you and I, similar age, we have no memory of Toronto's skyline before the CN Tower. Isn't that amazing?
We said it at the same time, too. Yeah, it is amazing.
Jinx on you.
Yeah, well, you announced what the whole show is about, and that's my job, but thanks for screwing that up.
Well, you know, I'm introducing your intro. I think that's a pre-intro.
Well, we do this bantering back and forth on every episode. We're doing a double header here, Jack, and we got this incredible person from history here, Jack Mesley. Is it Mesley? Is that the way you pronounce it, Jack?
Yeah, it's Mesley, yeah.
Mesley. Well, it's a pleasure and an honor to know you, and we're very, very excited about today because, I saw this article in the Toronto Star, and I said, wow, that would be a great idea for a show. Can we make it happen? And Mike called you up, and Mike, congratulations, you made that happen for us today.
Well, all praise is due to Jack. Jack was eager to talk CN Tower with Nick Ainis.
Well, that's amazing. I can't wait to get into the details here. But we're celebrating 50 years of the CN Tower, and we're having a conversation with Jack Mesley, who was part of that amazing project, and we're going to learn more about it today. It's super exciting for us because the CN Tower was one of the world's highest structures in the world before it was taken over by the Burj Khalifa in the Middle East. But still, it's a Canadian icon. It's a reference point for every Canadian or anyone from the area who wants to know where downtown Toronto is. It's the CN Tower, this incredible icon, and we are excited to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the CN Tower with you. And we know you're from the Ontario Erectors Association and one of the ironworkers who worked on the CN Tower. So this is a great honor for us. And Jack, welcome aboard, and just tell us a little bit about, and we're going to get into a couple things here, but tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now. You're you're the president of the Ontario Erectors Association. Tell us a little bit about your role.
Yeah, that's right, Nick. Grew up in the industry. Right now, my current job is I manage a contractor association. We're specialty steel contractors. We build what we're talking about now, probably not ever again, but we build steel high-rises, bridges, hospitals, all the warehouses you see going up in the country. We're in Ontario specifically, we're a unionized contractor. Yep. And we're affiliated with six of the union locals in Ontario, and we also work nationally across the country. And a lot of our contractors are, well, maybe not so much right now with the Trump thing going on, but we work in the U.S. as well. So,
well, you know what? I was gonna, while you were talking about this, I was gonna ask you, how's the steel industry right now as a result of the Trump situation?
Yeah, so the backlog, we have backlog obviously here in Canada, so we're not affected, for the next 6 months maybe. We do buy a lot of product out of the U.S. For our fabricators, and that's definitely going to affect how we work. And we have installers and fabricators that also do curtain wall, and that's a lot of aluminum. So the aluminum and steel tariffs really affect our industry, and we're hoping that we can stand up to that, and hopefully he comes to a sensus.
Well, I have an idea that this is going to we're going to have our election, and this will all be figured out, and water under the steel bridge, right?
Yeah, exactly. We
So
love Steel Bridge.
let's be positive, and because we don't need to fight people. We don't need to fight Americans. We already burned their White House down. We don't need to burn it down again, right?
No, we have a great partnership with our U.S. contractors and our U.S. affiliated unions. Like, we don't have any issues there. Trust me.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna go through a 5-point quick history of the CN Tower. It was built for communications in the early 1970s as a telecommunications hub. Construction began in 1973, and that's the year I was born and Mike was born, right?
I'm 74.
There you go. So coincidental. You guys topped out in 1975. The tower reached a full height of 553.3 meters. That's 1,815 feet. In April 1975, becoming the tallest freestanding structure in the world at that time. And the official opening was in 1976. And it took 40 months to complete. And it was officially open to the public on June 26, 1976, and featuring a 360-degree observation deck, and later a revolving restaurant. And this is just a global icon, and that's all you can say it. Just incredible, and it was the tallest freestanding structure for 34 years, and it was just overtaken in 2007 by the Burj Khalifa, which I write about in my book. And this is just a credible opportunity to talk to you, Jack. And tell us briefly about your background. What led you to be involved in the CN Tower project 50 years ago? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, I come. Thanks, Nick. That's a great introduction, and I was very fortunate to be able to work on that project. I come from a family of ironworkers, actually. My father and his two brothers, when my father came back from the Korean War and joined the ironworkers in the early 50s, and had a bunch of relatives, cousins, uncles, nephews. A lot of them are still involved in our industry. We're very fortunate that way. And I started my apprenticeship right out of high school. I had plans to go to architectural school, and just went, you know what? I think I need to go to work, and I'll just try it out for a year. And here we are 50 years later, and I'm still in the industry. So
that's amazing. I
was very fortunate to get into ironworking. I started as an apprentice in the building trades, and started, actually, my first job, Nick, was on the First Canadian Place. I started there as an apprentice in 1973.
That's
74. It was January, actually, when I joined the union. And while that building was going up, they were also building the CN Tower. So, you look across from that building to the CN Tower, and as an apprentice, I made a phone call, and I was very fortunate enough to get hired on and go over there just as they were wrapping up the restaurant level and started at the Skypod.
That's amazing. And, good for you for making that move, because that must have been hard to do, trust me. That must have been an amazing thing that you're building. First of all, the First Canadian Place is another iconic high-rise in Toronto. And it was one of the highest buildings in Canada at that time.
That's right.
And sure. So you're there already on an iconic tower, and then you say, hey, that's not good enough. I'm going over there. And
how could you not?
Wow. Yeah. I can picture that in my mind, that you're building that and you see the tower being built over there. That must have been an incredible time to be out there doing that work. Yeah, the
crew that I was working with at the time at First Canadian Place encouraged me to try and make a phone call, and they helped me reach out to the fellow that I needed to speak to, and it was I was very fortunate. Yeah, it was great.
Excellent. And you know what? We don't know a lot of things about, I think when you get older and you're so used to seeing this building, it's the CN Tower, but probably a lot of people don't understand everything that went into that. and you don't have to answer every question. You may not know every question, and that's okay. But there's a good question here. Do you know what the vision was behind the CN Tower at that time?
Well, it was to be telecommunication tower, and they wanted it to be iconic. There was 4 or 5 different buildings that were proposed. Some of them were three posts, up to one, and then they were going to build it originally as a communication tower, and then it went on hold, I think, for a couple of years, Nick. And then they came up with this new design. They wanted it to be a tourist attraction as well as iconic communication tower. And when the engineering got involved, when I know now what I didn't know then, they came out with some proposals, and one of the biggest things was, how do we get the antenna on top of that concrete tower at 1,500 feet? Like, there's no crane gonna
get there.
So that's when the company I was working for came up with the helicopter.
Well, hold your thought there, because we want to save that for later in the show for sure. But okay, that's a great answer to that question, and it kind of gave me, yes, it was originally slated for a telecommunications tower, but they turned that into a tourist attraction, an icon, and very smart of the visionaries back then, and who were all part of that. What was the mood and the energy in Toronto at that time? Tell me about it.
Oh, it was booming. I mean, you look at, we were just starting the high rises. There were only, in those days, Nick, there were only 2 TD towers. So there was just these 2 big black towers behind the Royal York Hotel. I think at that time, the Commerce Bank had just topped off, the big stainless steel one at the corner of King of Bay there. And the Bank of Montreal, the BMO building, had just started. So we knew, we started seeing the marble. So it was they had a stainless steel building. They had a black tower, the 2 black towers. I think in those days they wanted to highlight another high-rise building that was going to be the tallest. And that's why they bought all that Italian marble. So,
amazing.
And it was a fantastic design. The Bank of Montreal, or the BMO, it was the first concrete core building. Most of them in those days were all structural steel cores.
Yeah.
So, and the Commerce Court was built with guy derricks, like they did in New York in the old days. There was 3 guy derricks there, mm-hmm. And the Bank of Montreal was the first building that actually had climbing, lofting tower cranes like we see all over the world now.
Oh, wow.
So that was a big, big deal to have those 2 Favco cranes on the tower, and they jumped. We jumped every 3 floors there, and when on the guy derrick jobs, they jumped every 2 floors. So the technology was growing. It was, there were bridges. The Gardiner Expressway had gone in the late 60s. I was a lucky guy.
Was it optimistic to be in Toronto in those days? Like, were you saying, hey, Canada's booming, sure, it's coming around, and you believed in everything?
We did, for sure. I mean, how do you not when you're 20 years old? And construction industry was fantastic. Like, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, very fortunate to be growing up in that time. Yeah.
And what were the biggest, so like you mentioned a couple of things like the helicopter and everything like that. What were the biggest technical or logistical challenges in the early stages of the design for the CN Tower?
Oh, I didn't know a lot then, obviously.
But you do now.
I do now. Yeah, I sure do. So a lot of what affected the concrete and the slip form, well, then the slip form was, I think, what did they do? 6 feet a day or 10 feet a day. That's what the growth of that tower was. Mm. And it tapered. So the slip form had to change basically, every couple of feet. And the continuous pour, so they had a batch plant or a cement plant right on site. elevators that took concrete up. The crane took concrete up. But because of the taper and the height of it, they also had to adjust for rotation. So as the earth rotates, the concrete wanted to rotate. So to keep it stable, it was. God. Yeah, I didn't work on the slip form. I didn't have anything to do with that. I know there were a lot of ironworkers there. There's a lot of rebar in there.
Yeah, there is.
And they had to also make the cavity for the elevators that go up all three legs, and stairwells. There's stairwells from top to bottom. When I got there, we were just wrapping up the restaurant level.
Nice.
So the restaurant level, and then there's another 300 feet of concrete beyond that. So the crane erected all the steel, and the crane was on top of the slip form, and it erected all the steel from ground up. So quite a hike.
Yeah, quite an amazing achievement. And let's hear a little bit more about your specific role in the construction at the time.
Oh, yeah. I didn't have much of a role. I was an apprentice, trust me. Okay. In those days, apprentices had no rights. You did.
No, that's okay. That's right. Well, those were the good old days, weren't they?
And yeah, they were the good old days. And, being an apprentice, I joined a crew that was just finishing up the restaurant level, like everybody on site. And a lot of those guys and a lot of us were all from family that was involved in the ironworkers. And, as an apprentice, you're trying to learn as fast as you can and hold on and hang on tight and do what anybody told you to do. So,
well, back then you may have knew everybody as well because it was a tight-knit community, I'm sure.
Yeah, and actually some of the guys that worked on the tower actually became apprentice instructors at the union halls. A lot of the guys became foremen, general foremen. A couple of them became presidents of companies.
Wow.
We were pretty lucky. It was the people, right?
So as an apprentice, did they send you up there and you had to do things up there at that height?
Yeah, it was a test. Yeah, we did the test. My first day was actually at the sky pod level. I got invited up there, and I went up there as an apprentice and said, I don't want to just do this or that, or anyway.
Were you nervous while you were up at those heights? Were you saying, "Holy jeez, this is"?
Yeah, we were probably at the 500-foot level on the other tower, on the office tower.
Yeah,
and you're 1,500 feet above the ground with your feet dangling on a beam, and you're looking straight down at railroad tracks in those days. So,
were there any fatalities back then?
There were. It was very unfortunate. There was one fatality. I think it was a project manager. He was on the ground. It was a windy day. A piece of plywood blew off the ground and hit him and knocked him down, and he died.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
After all of the energy and all of the work that was done at elevation, at heights, there was a poor soul. I wasn't there, but it affected the whole project for sure.
I'm sorry to hear about that. Actually, that has happened to me, like high winds, and a piece of plywood flew off the building, and it actually hit someone. Luckily, he was okay, and nothing happened, and we didn't get shut down or anything, but it was was scary, and that's probably our worst accident that we've ever had is Fusion Corp, my construction management company, and we build condos and stuff like that. But so that was so that must have been something else, like to be standing. And you know what? I don't think you had all the safety gear that we have today. What was it like back then?
We all know, if you're involved in construction industry, fall protection. And working at heights, what they call it now, working at heights, there was fall protection in those days, didn't come in until the early 90s. So most of the folks on this project that were exposed or were ironworkers that working on the steel. There wasn't any safety protection. Trust me. You had a tool belt.
And that's it. And so everybody was walking on those beams at those heights, and
Yeah.
And hopefully they had good sea legs. Is that the idea?
You look at, there was some safety precautions for sure. I mean, there was a form that went up with the slip form that had outriggers and everything. When the steel came up, there was some protection below you for sure.
Yeah.
Below when they were installing the structural steel, and when we were on the antenna, when the antenna started, there was a working platform that we jumped, where the bolting crew and the survey crew and everyone worked, and that's where we staged from before we did the helicopter lift. So, nice. And you can see those platforms in pictures and photos. So.
Yeah, I noticed a few of them.
There was quite a bit of protection actually that way, but no, as far as working at heights and cables and wires and all that, there wasn't any of that, Nick.
Wow. And it's amazing that there were no more fatalities on the site. That's incredible. Yeah. So they had some concepts of safety. They obviously had some considerations for safety, which is great. And yes, working at heights and fall hazards are one of our key things that we look for in terms of safety today. Yeah, and so did you have a man and material hoist that took you, like an elevator that took you up to the top?
Yeah. So the elevator, there were construction hoists on the inside of the tower.
Yep.
So if you can picture, when you went up to the top, you got in a construction hoist. I think it held 25 or 30 workers.
How many were there?
I think there were two.
Two, eh?
Two. And the slipform guys, that was continuous pour, right?
Yes.
The ironworkers that were doing the structural steel at restaurant level and the iPod or the SkyPod and the antenna was only day shift for erecting, but night shift for bolting and plumbing and that kind of thing.
Oh, I see. So working around the clock is another.
So the elevators were very, very busy. Trust me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And when you got to the top, when you got to 1,500 feet at the restaurant level, you could actually look straight down. It was like looking in a mine shaft.
Oh, wow.
No lights in there, but it was
pretty amazing.
And there's stairs all the way from ground to top. So
did you ever use the stairs?
Yeah, that's no. Yes, we did. Only in triple emergencies. You certainly didn't want to walk.
Yeah, fair enough.
Up.
And how long did it take you to get to the top? Because I'm sure it took a while to get up to the top.
Yeah, they were rack and pinion elevators. So yeah, it was probably a 10-minute elevator ride, and quite an interesting elevator ride. Trust me, guys with coffees, all the banter that goes on. I mean, you're shoulder to shoulder in there. Like,
I can imagine.
Yeah,
being in construction, I'm in the hoist many times, and you're stuck in there, and there's nothing to do but talk, right?
Yeah, so, talk about hockey, talk about work, talk about your kids, talk about where you were.
You talk about other things, I'm sure too.
Well, we can't talk about that right now.
We can't talk about that, yeah. But so what was a typical day like? In construction, everybody starts with a coffee in the morning, and then you're right up there. You're probably taking the hoist right away, and then you're up there for the day.
So, for our crews that were, so let's talk about, erecting the SkyPod was the last structural steel framing that happened. So we had an elevator. We called it the cage, and it was like a cage. It was like a round basket kind of thing. I think it held 3, and it went from the restaurant level, the roof, to up the 300 feet to the SkyPod. Wow. And then you unloaded from there into there was a working floor, obviously, because there's an elevator to the SkyPod. So there was a working area where you'd unload, and then the steel would come from the ground or from the top of the restaurant level, the roof of the restaurant level, to us on the SkyPod. And then there was, when we were erecting that, I joined a crew of, I think there were 7 or 8. I can't remember exactly how many. I can remember names of the guys. I'm old now, but so it was a small crew, very all of us were very tight knit crew, and the guys on the restaurant as well. Like there was lots of chirping and banter, and so when we finished erecting the sky pod, that's when it was time to take the crane down. And so because the crane actually sat at the top of the concrete, which is where the steel antenna starts.
Right.
So after we had erected the sky pod, and I got there, I don't know, I think halfway through the sky pod, or we were just starting, I can't recall. And then once it was done and all the pics were done for the restaurant, the crane, we had to dismantle the crane with the helicopter, Nick. And that was
pretty amazing event.
Quite a show, let me tell you.
Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to save that to the end, I think.
Okay.
Well, we'll get there in a second. But so, I mean, I guess you just as a point of fact, you probably bought a pot of coffee with you.
Oh yeah.
You brought your lunch because you wouldn't be coming down later on.
No. You went up. You didn't come down till the end of the day.
Till the end of the day.
If it was severe weather, we didn't even go up. We're building the thing in, January, February, and March to get ready for good weather for the antenna in April, right? So, yeah, it was merciless, that's for sure.
And it must have been like windy and cold, and you probably went through a lot of hell up there too.
Yeah, and where do you go hide? So we would go down. We had a place to get out of the weather inside the core. And and there were other projects, like we'd go down and put steel stairs in. Like there were projects to do inside the core that kept us working. And then on the good weather days, you'd go up in open air. Yep.
Yeah, nice. So you highlighted some pretty amazing innovations at the time. So we had the slip form construction technique that was used, and there was a lot of concrete that was used there. And you said they say what I'm reading here, that was approximately 6 meters per day, and the technique was crucial for maintaining structural integrity and ensuring efficient progress.
And a lot of workers, a lot of cooperation there. There were iron workers installing rebar. There were the laborers and the carpenters and the working on the concrete and the slip forms, and
were there a lot of
surveyors and engineers like.
So who would? Okay, so the iron workers are the white guys, right? And the Italians, were there any Italians working as a form workers of those days?
There's an Italian and a Portuguese and a Canadian and a Newfoundlander.
It was everybody, eh?
Oh my God! It was like the United Nations up there.
That's great. That truly defines Canada too. So that's amazing.
Sure does. Yeah,
because I know the forming guys were all Italian back then. So
yeah, Italian. Yeah, Italian, Portuguese for sure.
Excellent.
Big deal. Yeah.
So another innovation, they had this precision vertical alignment. So to ensure the vertical accuracy, they had massive plumb bombs that, from what I understand, suspended within the structure. Do you know it? Did you remember anything about that?
No, I was really never a big part of that. I could tell you about precision for the antenna. We actually hung inside the antenna, which was 5-sided.
Mm-hmm.
It was a pentagon. And there was framing in there, like they called a spider, so it was reinforcing, like bracing.
Yeah.
In that bracing, we hung lights, like fluorescent lights, tubes.
Yeah.
And there were windows in the steel framing of the antenna in those 5 sides, and the surveyors would go at night. Like to Spadina or Bathurst Street, or they go up the street on what's straight across from the tower there. I forget what street it is. Is it Bay or John Street? And then they'd go the other way. So we had lights with surveyors on streets at the 4 points, and they would plumb the antenna so we could.
Oh, wow. That's
cables. We had cables that we would wrap to pull it one way or the other. And we could only do that on calm days, like when there weren't any wind. So a lot of times we were there at night to do that work. And
so surveyors were there on the ground, on the street level.
Yes.
And they were like, you guys were communicating by radio or something like that?
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That sounds amazing. It wasn't
technology like we have now, trust me.
Yeah, for sure. Now everything's like digital satellite.
Digital, then models, BIM models and everything. Yeah,
exactly. Well, that's interesting. And then now we're going to talk about this innovative use of a helicopter for the antenna installation. So here's what I read there. Instead of traditional cranes, the final antenna sections were lifted into place using a Sikorsky S-64 Sky Crane helicopter named Olga. Yeah. The approach significantly reduced the installation time from an estimated 6 months to just 3.5 weeks. And tell us about the helicopter, and were you there, and let's hear about it.
Yes, I was part of the crew that worked with the helicopter. Somehow I wiggled my way in there. So there were probably 8 to 10 folks that were primarily involved with the helicopter. But as far as the whole crew of ironworkers on the antenna and the bolting and the logistics and the guys on the ground that were sending the pieces, and so everything was pre-fit, Nick. So everything in the yard came from the yard. The fabrication yard had been picked up with a crane, 20 or 30 feet off the ground, picked up with a crane, placed one piece on top of another, precision drilled, reamed, and then marked and set on the ground again, and then shipped to site. All the pieces were on site before the helicopter got there. Uh-huh. They had all been pre-drilled and pre-assembled. And when the helicopter came, the first task was to take the crane down. The crane was in the way, obviously. Yeah. And that was probably one of the most complex phases of the project, was to take the crane off the building. So all the weights had been measured before it went up, because the plan was already in place to take the crane down with the helicopter. So you had to know what your weights were. The Olga, the Sikorsky, maximum lift was somewhere around 10 tons. Now that's imperial tons, not metric tons.
Yes.
So max capacity was 10 tons. If you can imagine a helicopter lifting 10 tons.
Wow. No, I can't.
So to do the lift, max lift at 10 ton, they had to reduce their fuel capacity in the helicopter.
Wow.
And there were three pilots. So there was a pilot that flew the helicopter, a co-pilot that flew the helicopter, and then another pilot that sat in the back under where the hoists were in a bubble, and he could work the crane. So the helicopter could hover, and the crane would actually lift up and down for precision picks. Like they could up and down the hoist to, within an inch, if you can imagine.
And there must have been some people on the crane to I guess, where they were attached by cables or something like that?
Yes, there's a hoist up in the belly of the crane.
Yes.
And it's got like, like a crane, there's an advantage. So it had six parts or whatever it was. They actually had a mechanism they could release the hook from inside the crane, from inside the helicopter. Mm-hmm. Jump ahead a little bit. Most of the time we unhooked the crane. But when they came over to take the crane down, it was more of a safety or an emergency advantage that they could let go of something, right? In case there was going to be something happen catastrophic.
Yeah, so you were ready for the worst at all times. So did anything happen that day? Did it go smoothly, or was it challenging?
So the first day was, the tower crane was a T crane, mast, boom out the back, main boom out the front, counterweights on the back, main boom out the front. So, to dismantle a crane, you have to balance it and all that kind of stuff. So we had gone up like probably a week or 14 days ahead and got things ready. We'd pulled out main pins, put small pins in, changed some of the cabling, that kind of stuff, because it wasn't going to lift anymore. And they reduced fuel capacity. First day with the helicopter was to take the main boom out of the crane.
Yeah.
That was and we had a couple of issues up there. The boom had twisted. We pulled a couple of pins. The boom had twisted.
Wow.
A couple of the cables that hold the boom. Anyway, we did eventually get the boom out of the crane neck. We actually cut parts of it apart. We had oxyacetylene torches up there. We actually cut boom because the pins wouldn't come out. He ended up, I think, with, I don't know, only 15 minutes or 20 minutes of fuel left.
Oh, wow.
Otherwise, it would have been not a good day.
Well, you know what? And you know what? I've been on job sites where something happens not going the way you want it to go, and then you have to come up with an alternative plan, and then everybody's scrambling to make that happen. It must have been very intense for people in that spot.
And don't forget that that's a big crane, like big prop wash. So when it comes over top of you, you can't hear or talk. There's about a 50, 60 mile an hour downdraft on top of you. And then when it pulls over, there's no wind anymore. So, but it's still so loud, you can't talk. The only one that could talk was our foreman, Paul, and he was talking to the crane. He was talking to the helicopter. Oh. We were all, the 6 of us or 7 of us, we were all just hand signals, right? And yeah. And it was a cold March day.
Must have been.
I remember that for sure.
Must have been totally incredible.
Then we had to regroup.
And were you there for the antenna as well? And were they getting better at that point, or what happened?
Oh yeah, like coming from the ground up with a piece was easy compared to being in the air and taking a piece to the ground. Yeah,
sounds amazing.
And now, major weights. Yeah.
So another thing is they had an advanced foundation engineering. The foundation required an excavation of over 56,000 metric tons of earth to a depth of 15 meters. The base was then constructed with 7,000 cubic meters of concrete, reinforced with 450 tons of rebar, 36 tons of steel cable, ensuring stability for that massive structure. So it was probably a feat of its time. And it also has a robust lightning protection system.
Oh, boy.
You know something about that?
Lots of grounding there. Yeah, lots of grounding. And there's big pipes on the top of the antenna, actually, that attract the lightning. And everybody's seen pictures of the CN Tower and the lightning striking it, right? So,
yeah. And I think that's, they say there's a series of copper strips running the entire length of the tower and everything like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
So that's, so those were so that was probably an incredible project, and just incredible in terms of that. And were there a lot of tight deadlines? Like, what was the original schedule? Did they say we're going to get this done in 2 years, 3 years?
I think they finished very close to schedule. I really do. I don't know. I don't have that much knowledge of how that went, Nick. I was a worker bee then. I wasn't project management side, now. So,
well, it looks like, you know what? I think some projects today, they take 4 years, and they should take like 1 or 2.
That's right.
It's amazing. You build this amazing thing in 40 months, and some towers downtown take 5 years, 6 years to get done.
Yeah.
But it must have been an incredible time. And we talked a little bit about how the industry changed over the years, and from the 70s, and tools and safety and techniques. And was there an issue about being motivated back then? Like, how was the crew motivated during such an unprecedented build? Was it just so much excitement all the time that it was like you didn't feel like you needed any motivation down there? And
no, the crew showed up every day, trusted each other, went to work, got things done.
Well, that's really cool.
And had some fun.
Did you ever think that, oh my God, we're never going to finish this thing, or no?
Not a chance.
Not a chance.
No.
So this was, how was so what was it like being there when the CN Tower opened? Were you there on opening day?
No, I wasn't there for opening day. I did go back. Actually, I went back with Paul Mitchell. He was our foreman. He had the headphones on. He had the contact to the helicopter, and for him and I were actually together for the 25th anniversary of the CN Tower, and we did. They had a big celebration in those days, so it was good to reunite with a lot of the guys that were still around. And
that's cool. That must have been great.
Yeah, it was like a really good reunion. It was a lot of fun.
Well, was that your first time back?
What's that?
Was that your first time back?
No, I'd gone back. Family and friends would come. We had to go, right?
Yeah, of course.
But I can't remember the last time I went up there. I have grandkids, Nick. So,
well, I mean, that's okay. You got to go up there.
Got to go with the
Well, you know what? What a cool thing to tell your grandkids is, hey, I built the CN Tower, and they must think like.
I don't tell them.
You don't tell them that?
I don't talk about it a lot. No, I don't know why. That's the way it rolls. Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. I'd be saying, you see that thing? I built that thing.
Right. Yeah.
And they say, oh my God. They probably like you anyways. How's that?
They have some fantastic Wall of Fame pictures in there, in the lobby where you're waiting for the elevator. I don't know when you've been there last, but it's pretty cool.
Are you in any of the pictures?
Oh, I'm in a few of those pictures for sure. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Well, you should, listen, I recommend that you got to tell your grandkids, and you got to show them the pictures down there and say, hey, there's me. I built this thing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Sorry, I got a visitor, Nick. Yeah.
No worries. So, so when they came up with the concept of the CN Tower, did everyone think that this is like a iconic symbol of Toronto?
I don't know that we knew whether it was going to be an icon. I mean, we knew it was a significant
project
and a significant build. And I know a lot of the guys, we were working on towers, office towers then, but when you're looking at this thing and you're on 50 floors and it's already 500 feet above you, you got to go, that's pretty cool. Probably need to try and get over there.
Yeah, of course. And now, what do you think the CN Tower, and this is your own opinion, and there's no right or wrong answer, what do you think the CN Tower means to people today, 50 years later?
I think it's more of an icon now than it was then, don't you, Nick? We're building 110 or 120 floor condominium towers now, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe one day there'll be a condominium tower in Toronto that's as high as the CN Tower. I think the main thing about it is that it's more of an engineering icon than anything else. If you think back to the 70s and the lack of technology that we had then and what we could actually build and the ingenuity that it took to get that to where it is, and it's good for another 100 years, I think that's the main thing. Don't you?
Yeah, I think so too. And and Mike, you can chime in here too. But I think it's first of all, the CN Tower for me is always a point of reference for Toronto. Yeah. You see it. You're in Brampton. You're in Caledon. You're driving along the 401 somewhere, east, west, and you can. Sorry.
You're in an airplane.
and you can see it, and it's kind of saying, well, that's where I am. I always look to it as being a point of reference, and it means that we're in Toronto. So, Mike, you're going to say something.
Yeah, I'm going to say that I agree with you 100%, Nick, but also across the globe, around the world, if you say Toronto, Ontario, Canada, people's first reference point is that tower. Like, I think it's amazing, Jack, that you had a role in this. Like, what a great conversation that you played a role in building the CN Tower, which is, I'm looking at Nick's hat right now. The CN Tower is on that hat. Behind Nick in the logo for building Toronto Skyline is the CN Tower. Like,
it's in the logo.
It's in the logo. The CN Tower is the symbol that best represents the city of Toronto.
Yeah, I think so too. And it makes us proud to be Canadians, and it's a soft spot in our hearts for recognizing that that's Canada, that's Toronto, and the CN Tower is part of our country.
Yeah, and I think, you know what, I think it's great that we had an owner. It first started out to be all three of them, the CP, the CN, and it ended up being just the CN Tower, but a contractor had to take on the project, had to take the risk. The skilled trades and all of the building trades got involved. There were no issues between the workers. There were no trade jurisdiction issues. Everybody was just proud to go to work and be Canadian and build it.
Yeah, nice. And who was the GC?
Foundation company. They're not around anymore. I'm sure they are, but there's a different name for it.
Yeah, different name. Did everybody make money? I hope everybody made money.
I think so. I know we did.
Well, that's good to hear. Now, after you finished that job, you must have said, "Hey, I'll never do another project like that again." Was it how long did that last in? You must have been like on a rush, and then you went to the next job. And was it a letdown, or did it change your career at all? Or
for sure, it changes your career, Nick. It changes your career, but it wasn't a letdown. It was okay. Where are we going next?
Where are we going next? That's great.
Going next. So actually, I was with another lucky guy. I went up north and worked at a mine site for a while after that project, I remember. And then the Olympic Stadium in Montreal was being built, and I went there.
Oh, good for you. You were a go-getter, that's for sure.
You
said, "Hey, I'm at the tallest tower in Toronto, first Canadian place, but hell, it's not big enough for me. I'm going to the CN Tower."
Right, there you go.
Good for you. And so what advice would you give to the next generation of builders today? Give us some advice, Jack.
I would say, well, that's a tough question. I would say you have to be guided by your dreams. You have to be guided by your focus. You have to have a goal, and don't go off the track. Just stay on track. Do what you know is right, and work and show up every day, and be
happy, positive.
Be respectful who you're working for
sure,
and encourage all of the workers around you to do the same, and try and make some money, and remember that you're working for somebody that's trying to make some money as well.
That is some amazing, great advice, and you hit it right on the head. And do you think so I'm going to say something, and maybe a little bit controversial. You'll probably say, you might give me a little bit of crap later on, but I'm going to say it anyways. I think that was a very visionary thing that happened with the CN Tower. What happened to Canadian visionaries? Why aren't we building any more amazing projects like this in Canada? I feel that we're lacking that ambition and vision. in our country a little bit, and not as a put down, but just as a matter of fact. And I would like to hear what you think about that too. And it's not a put down. It's just I feel like, look at this amazing. Look what we did back then. Why aren't we doing more like that? Why can't we be more ambitious like that? Go ahead, Jack.
I don't know. I'm in the city not as much as I used to. I live out in the country, but I still travel to the city. I know we suffer when we're trying to drive into the city. And the only reason we're suffering in 90% of the traffic and the pain for us to go to work is construction. We've never stopped building.
Yeah.
We're building subways. We're building bridges. I mean, you go to the Portlands and look at the beautiful bridges we're building there, Nick. And like right now, look, I know the one ran into trouble there at Bloor and Yonge, but that's 110 stories of condo. There's not many buildings like that around the world. I mean, I worked in Chicago. I worked in New York. I've worked in Argentina. I've worked all around the world. But I got to say, it's probably one of the best places and to be is Toronto and its neighborhoods. I think maybe a little more private money and not so much government money and not so much government intervention would help us build
bigger and better
and more efficiently. It's the efficiency that we lack. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Look at our crosstown. Look at the Eglinton crosstown. It's 10 years behind schedule.
Yeah. Imagine trying to build the CN Tower today.
Oh,
It would take 15 years.
Mission impossible.
Because people were willing to take risks back then. And are there any other... so, by the way, I think you're in Thornbury, right?
I live in Thornbury, yeah.
I haven't... do you ever get to Owen Sound at all?
Of course. Yeah.
I bought the courthouse and jail over in Owen Sound, the old courthouse.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So I'm going to invite... When it opens, it's going to be an entertainment event center, and when it opens, I'm going to invite you, Jack. Okay? Because you're for me, you're a legend. So
I'm a legend. Yeah, I'm a legend. All right. I'm the grumpy old ball guy now.
Nah, we don't see that. Are there any other? And last question: any final reflections, Jack? Anything you admire about the spirit of the CN Tower? Let's hear your final thoughts and your final reflections today.
Oh boy, thanks for all the cue cards, Nick.
So you don't get any here. We're tough. Okay.
I got to say, I'm not sure the crews knew that we were building an icon. I'm sure they knew we were building something significant, but a bunch of young ironworkers looking forward to doing the job in front of you. There were a lot of apprentices. There were a lot of old guys. So we had great mentors. And like so many, we're just following in. It's a lot of family. It's family footsteps. And you're trying to learn as fast as you can, right? Like you really are.
Right.
And so looking back, I think, it's probably not the height of the building. It's the people that worked on it.
Yeah, that's
and the
great.
People that had the vision and the people that the engineers and the project managers and the logistics and the fabrication. It's the people, it's the people. Yeah, they showed up every day.
And you know what? I think
trusted each other and just went to work and got the job done. I think that's how it goes.
And I think you just hit the nail on the head, and that's the spirit of the CN Tower. Yeah. Jack, I want to thank you. It's been amazing. I look forward to inviting you. We're going to keep in touch, and we're going to see you in Owen Sound one day. And I got some steel over there, too.
Okay.
All right.
We have steel erectors and steel fabricators, so just give me a call.
I will certainly. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you for listening to Building Toronto's Skyline. a podcast exploring the current state of Toronto's condominium industry. Proudly brought to you by Fusion Corp Developments, Inc. Please share, like, and subscribe. See you again in 2 weeks.